Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this afternoon reflection on the sacrament of holy marriage, or holy matrimony, right? It's a wonderful gift, a gift given to us by God, those who are called to that state of life. But it's a gift given to the church, right? How beautiful this gift is. So we've been talking a few days about this wonderful sacrament. And now the couple comes into the parish office because they want to book the wedding celebration, the mass, the ceremony, and talk to the priest about some of the things they need to get in line so they could properly prepare for the celebration of holy matrimony. Well, the first thing that they would do is to call the parish office and make an appointment to see the pastor or the associate, which is called the parochial vicar, or a deacon. And they would then meet with the clergyman, whether that be the priest as pastor, or the priest as the parochial vicar, or the deacon, and sit and speak to him. Now, usually it's me here at St. Mary's, but I say all of that because every parish does a little differently when they meet with the couple. So usually what happens at St. Mary's is they'll call here at the parish office center and they'll say, "Hi Sandy, this is Mary and Joe Smith, and Mary is a member of the parish, and we want to speak to Father about preparing for marriage." Okay. And then Sandy will then go to her little trusty calendar and make an appointment with you and Father, you and me. And then you'll come into the parish office center in my office right here. This is my office here at the parish office center. And we'll sit down and we'll talk. We'll pray and we'll talk about what needs to be done in preparation for the celebration of the sacrament of marriage. Now remember, both end. The temporal stuff and the spiritual things. So the temporal things and the spiritual things. It's always both end in preparation for the sacrament, right? It's things that we need to get done in a temporal way or a physical way, an earthly way, and there's things to get done in a spiritual, liturgical, sacramental way, a heavenly way. So it's always both end. So you come in and we chit-chat for a little bit. You may want to tell me a little bit about yourself and even where you met. That's nice to know that. And your background, maybe where you went to school, grade school, high school, college, what your major is, and how those things happened. Because see how God has played a major part in all of this, of where you are now, where you were, and where you will be. So it's all the parts of your life, all the different chapters, people may say, all those pivotal moments that God's grace has been upon you in your life. And sometimes without even realizing what God is doing, God has already been implanting the seed of His grace and His love in you as you prepare for a vocation that God has ready for you. And He will make that known to you as time goes along. In all the interesting people and places and situations that you will encounter. And then He will arrange the meeting of both of you, the falling in love, and the invitation to enter into this sacred union. You have to have your eyes open as well as your ears, but more importantly, your heart. To be open to accept the invitation that Christ is giving to both of you to enter into this sacred union. That it is His will. Sometimes we forget about that, and I want to make mention of that because you think like, I did this and I did this and I met him here and I did this and we did that and I did this and he did that. We never hear God. How God did all this. How God arranged all this. God did it. And how you and I discovered it. See, that's really the plan. That God has established all this and you and I discover it. We can never, ever forget that. So keep your eyes and your ears, and most importantly, your heart open to discover God's plan for you, your vocation, the way to give Him glory, to sanctify yourself as you both walk together on the road of life to eternity. Because that's all part of the plan that God has for you. I said to you yesterday, we're all called to love. All of us are called to love each other. But what is about the married love that is different than the single love? How is it different in the vocational way of life? Well, obviously it's with another person, but it's not to exclude God. God is in the center of both of you. And that you walk with each other on the road of life with God, to God. That God has allowed this to happen so you can give Him glory and to sanctify or make holy your own life, your lives together. And to make sure you walk with each other and carry each other along the road of life to eternal life. And that love is articulated, lived out in the ends of marriage or the spiritual goods of marriage. Your faithfulness to one another, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Absolutely. It is a permanent relationship. It is until death, unitive and indissoluble. It's for just you two, as God enters into your union and makes both of you one, the two becoming one. Isn't that interesting how God takes two individual people from two ways of life and calls them together to form this oneness? Remember I told you it's never a division. It's always a binding of one. Division and fraction is part of sin. Unity and oneness is a part of grace. So we have to make sure that that's always in our mind and in our heart. In other words, in our body and in our soul. We realize this. It's always both and, not either or. And so it's about the unitive nature. It's about that it's indissoluble. It is until death. And it's about the procreative aspect of human life. That's what this love is all about in marriage. It's not a selfish love. It's not all what me. It's us. And the center of the us is God. Because God called us into existence, called us into love, and called us into this relation of marriage to mirror Christ's love for his bride, the church. So you are to mirror Christ's love by this emptying of oneself. So the vows that you speak on the day of your marriage are the vows you are to live every day of the married life. I love you for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness or in health. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. Did you notice that it's more than just physical love? It's a deep spiritual love. The love that you have for each other, for your body and your soul. And we can't ever forget that. So we prepare ourselves spiritually to know all that and to talk to the priest or to the deacon as we're preparing for marriage. And that spiritual goodness that we should have, we learn about that in other ways. Preparing ourselves maybe through a pre-Cana session, maybe a retreat, maybe a workshop. Doing something for yourselves in order that you prepare for the spiritual goods of marriage. All right? Because that's very important. So when you come in and you book the date and the time, okay, that's wonderful. But let's talk serious business now. Do you know what you're getting yourself into? Are you ready for this challenge? Are you ready for God's grace? Are you ready to surrender to your spouse? Do you understand what it means to be permanent relationship, exclusive relationship? Do you understand what it means to be procreative, to educate your offspring? Do you understand what that unitive, indissoluble, and procreative aspect of love? You know, we love each other. What does that mean? Because love for you may be different from love for this next person. But what does God mean love should be in the sacrament of matrimony? See, you can't define what already has been defined. It's already been defined by God. You have to discover that finding that God has called you to enter and say, I accept that. I accept you to enter into this beautiful spousal relationship in which we enter as people of God, as Christ's disciples, and we mirror his marriage to all of us by my vows to my spouse. Because I'm hearing Christ speaking those words to us from the time that we first heard them to now. Christ said to me and to you and to your spouse to be, I love you for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness or in health, until death do us part. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. Christ has already spoken those vows to you, to me, to your future spouse. And now you take those vows that Christ has wedded them to us, to each other. You mirror them among yourselves to mirror the very spousal relationship that Christ has with his church. And so do you want to know about marriage? Look at the gospel. Look at the life of Christ. Look at the total gift of self. The surrender. The permanent relationship that he has with us. That he's not leaving us. He's not leaving us, even though we have left him. He's not leaving us. I love you for better or for worse. I love you. I love you for better or for worse, for richer or poorer, whether you're sick or you're well. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. Unitive, procreative, indissoluble. The ends of marriage. A beautiful gift. So we speak about each other, you and your spouse, forming that oneness. That's important. Selfishness needs to be pushed aside. Capital sins need to be pushed aside. There's no room for that in Christ's marriage among man and woman. Okay? I just want to speak to you because when you come into the office and you make those arrangements and we speak about our lives as a couple and you share them with me as the priest and you speak and you articulate how God has called you, especially in faith. You may say, Father, I'm not a faithful person. I went to Catholic school, but I don't go to church. I don't go to church anymore. Well then, this period of engagement is a time to turn all of that around and prepare for the sacrament of marriage. Go to confession. Start going to Mass. Start praying daily. If all of that is good, is the good of life, then why aren't we making that and including that in our marriage preparation? The spiritual goods. It's important. Because when children come along, how are you going to raise your children? Are they going to fall in the same bad habits of not going to Mass? Make sure your child is baptized within the first month or month and a half of birth. Doing right from the beginning all the spiritual goods that you need to have for them as parents. Remember, it's for the procreation and education of children. Education meaning that learning of God. How can they know of God unless you lead them to God? All right? See, I'm just taking this slowly and gently as you prepare for marriage, whether that be a nuptial Mass between two Catholics, or maybe a nuptial ceremony between a Catholic and a non-Catholic, or between a Catholic and a non-baptized. So there's three scenarios, right? Two Catholics, of course, baptized. Two Christians baptized, a Catholic and a non-Catholic, but both baptized. And the third scenario, a baptized Catholic and a non-baptized person. And we could talk all about that in our next segment as we move forward. I'm glad I had this opportunity to be with you and to share, of course, the thoughts of the Church and of Christ with you. And I say that very clearly. When the Church speaks, Christ speaks. And when Christ speaks, the Church speaks. It's not these two voices. It's one. It's not either or, it's both and. Christ and his Church always speaks with clarity and conviction, but above all, with love. We have a shout out today. Kathleen Bittner's birthday. Kathleen, how are you today? Happy birthday to you. You're a wonderful, faithful woman and a lifelong member of our parish here at St. Mary. You're really a special person, Kathleen. Thank you very much for everything you do, and thank you for your deep faith and your witness of your faith. I appreciate it as the pastor, and I know your fellow parishioners do as well. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kathleen. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Bye, everybody.